Revealed, the amazing underdog story of how Richard Branson overcame British Airways' dirty tricks in the heart of a sun-kissed Midwestern town, where the scent of freshly baked pies floated on the warm breeze. 15-year-old Jake stared at the sky, his heart echoing with ambition. Just like Richard Branson, the daring entrepreneur who once faced the mighty British Airways, Jake dreamed big. He wanted to launch his own airline, a lifeline connecting small towns to bustling cities. Yet, all around him, the whispers of doubt grew louder, and fear seeped into his soul as blow after blow landed from Griffin Airways, a company determined to crush his dreams. Jake came from a family who worked tirelessly to make ends meet. Those extended summer afternoons were spent helping neighbors with chores, building a strong sense of community as he learned that resilience and hard work weren't just values, they were the foundation of his life. His parents, despite their struggles, nurtured his dreams, their loving eyes a well of hope amidst the financial pressures weighing heavily on them. Tension gnawed at Jake, especially as his father sighed heavily at family dinners, wishing for Jake to take a more practical path. "Why can't you just focus on school, Jake?" his father would say, a furrow in his brow. Those words cut deep. But Jake, fired up by Branson's boldness, wasn't ready to give in. Fueled by his determination, he reached out to a local investor, convinced that together they could spark something transformational. Days turned to weeks as they strategized, only to face a gut-wrenching betrayal that left him feeling hollow and alone. The sting of his father's disappointment was worse than the loss of the investor. Emotion crashed over him like a wave. The dream he cherished seemed to slip through his fingers, another boyhood fantasy fading away. In the silence of his room, Jake felt lost. He closed his eyes, envisioning the faces of his friends and the strong-hearted townsfolk, pondering why he was fighting this battle and drawing strength from Branson's uncanny resilience. Yet the shadows of fear and self-doubt danced in the corners of his mind. How could he press on when everything felt so precarious? Then came the community meeting, the place where dreams could either soar like eagles or crumble like brittle leaves. As Jake stood before his neighbors, heart racing, he found the courage to share his story. "I've faced obstacles. Griffin Airways has tried everything to silence us." His voice trembled, pulling at the heartstrings of those gathered. "But isn't there a spark within every one of us? Isn't that what makes us who we are?" His words began to ignite a fire in the crowd. Familiar faces, farmers, teachers, mothers, and fathers, all leaning in, filled with a mix of anticipation and hope. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As support swelled, Jake could feel the warmth of solidarity wash over him, though uncertainty still lurked in the shadows. Just when hope seemed to be blossoming, a chilling challenge threatened to pull the rug out from under him. Would he muster the strength to defend his dream and rebuild the ties that had started to fray? The moment felt suspended in time as he realized the battle wasn't just with Griffin Airways, it was within himself. In the depths of his turmoil, an answer loomed, a choice that could change everything. Would he rise or fall? The answer hung on the edge, waiting to unveil the next chapter of his young life. Jake paced the creaky floorboards of his room, heart pounding in concert with the ticking clock on the wall. The voices of his parents echoed in his mind, swirling with the exhilarating memory of the community's support. It was a potent mix that fueled both his resolve and doubt. The words he'd spoken during the meeting resonated within him, igniting flickers of hope amidst the shadows of fear. Days later, he found himself sitting across the table from a couple of local business owners. They were gathered at the diner, sipping coffee while their laughter filled the air. Their joy carved a stark contrast to the knot of anxiety tightening in Jake's stomach. He had gathered the courage to invite them to brainstorm ideas for his airline, hoping they could be allies in his quest. But what if they laughed? What if they saw it as just a kid's fantasy? "Jake, we hear through the grapevine that you're dreaming of starting an airline," one of the older gentlemen, Mr. Collins, chuckled, his weathered face softening into a smile. "Fitting our town means more than just flying folks around, it means bringing our community together." A wave of encouragement washed over Jake as he explained his vision. detailing how he wanted to create routes that would allow residents to visit loved ones and not just endure long drives. The more he spoke, the more he saw their eyes flicker with interest. Yet, lingering in the back of his mind was the grim reminder of Griffin Airways looming over him like a storm cloud, ready to strike. Hours passed, filled with passionate conversation and brainstorming sessions. Mr. Collins initiated a discussion on their experiences and what they would want in a service that brought more mobility to their tight-knit community. As ideas flowed, Jake felt the weight on his shoulders begin to shift. These people weren't just spectators, they could be his teammates. Days turned into weeks, and every little breakthrough felt like a victory against a tide of doubt. Jake spent late nights building a business plan, sketching ideas, and laying out possible routes on maps. He could hear snippets of Branson's entrepreneurial spirit whispering in his ears, reminding him to be bold, to take leaps of faith. Then came an unexpected encounter at the grocery store. As Jake swept the aisle for cereal, he bumped into Mrs. Jenkins, a resident who had known him since he was a child. "You've got big dreams, Jake," she said, her kind eyes sparkling with encouragement. "Don't let a couple of rough seasons make you forget the harvest. You're fired, don't lose it." Her words struck a chord deep within him. He realized the community saw the same potential in him that he saw in Branson. That unwavering belief pushed him forward, igniting an unquenchable desire to succeed, but soon enough, the familiar pit of anxiety returned. What would happen if he stepped out of the shadows and truly made his dream public? Would it all come crashing down like before? Jake decided to rally the community again. The stakes felt higher now, but he understood that vulnerability was part of this journey. At the next community meeting, Jake stepped up to the podium once more, the whispers of his heart mingling with the murmurs of those he cherished. "Let us not just dream together, let us build something real." As he spoke, he saw their faces filled with excitement and determination. The room buzzed with energy, a palpable sense of possibility, and he knew he had to plunge deeper into this dream no matter what challenges lay ahead. The night ended with heartfelt claps and smiling faces, but Jake felt the urgency rising inside him. Up against the giants of Griffin Airways, would he have the strength to keep pushing for his dream, or would this dream slip away again, lost to the winds of doubt? As the weight of this realization bore down on him, he knew one thing for certain: this was just the beginning. And soon, he'd have to make a choice that could change everything. Would it be now or never? With newfound determination bridging the gap between fear and hope, Jake awoke the next morning with an infectious energy. Sunlight spilled through the window, illuminating his room, and he could feel the pulse of his community beating in rhythm with his own heart. Today was a fresh chance to gather allies, to share his dream, and to fight for something he believed in. Jake grabbed his notebook and jotted down ideas, the ideas swirling in his mind demanding to be captured. He envisioned a pitch not just solid enough for his small town, but sparkling enough to stand out to investors. What was it about his airline that made it special? First and foremost, this would be a service born from community spirit, built for the unique needs of the residents. As he scribbled down keywords like local, personal touch, and affordable access, he felt almost magnetic, drawing forth the energy that had lain dormant for so long. Later that day, Jake met with Mr. Collins at the diner again. This time, it was packed with townsfolk enjoying lunch. He approached Mr. Collins, his mind racing. What if we could create a community investment opportunity? Something where our people could literally own a part of this dream? Mr. Collins raised an eyebrow, the corners of his mouth twitching into a smile. "You mean, like a co-op for the airline?" The excitement in his voice ignited something in Jake. "Exactly. We could start a campaign to raise funds through small investments. People could even buy shares with contributions that suit their situations." As Jake shared his excitement, he could see the gears turning in Mr. Collins' mind. Getting the whole town involved could set Jake's vision on fire, creating a wide net of supporters. They discussed logistics, potential returns on investments, and how entrepreneurships shift when they become the heartbeat of a community. Days passed, each filled with planning meetings, discussions about logistics, and moments of inspiration. His idea rippled through the town, reaching farmers, teachers, and business owners alike. Soon enough, Jake's proposal for a crowd-funded airline took shape, garnering interest in a big town meeting. The stage was set for the largest turnout yet, but as Jake prepared for the meeting, the usual jitteriness returned. What if it was all too ambitious? What if people lost confidence? There was so much at stake: his vision, their trust. The weight pressed heavily on him as he tucked his shirt in, adjusting his collar in the mirror. He needed to show them he was serious, not just a kid but a partner in their future. When the evening came, the town hall was overflowing. Faces lit up with curiosity and apprehension. Jake stepped up to the podium, taking a deep breath to steady himself. Tiny clenched fists held his notes, but he squared his shoulders, allowing the room to fill with the anticipation of his words. "Tonight," he began, his voice steady and clear, "I'm not just asking for support. I'm inviting you to join me in building something ours, something that ties us together. Imagine not just getting on a flight, but doing so with the knowledge that you helped create this path in the skies." Mixed responses rippled through the crowd, but it was clear Jake had their attention. He explained how they could implement creativity in their routing, even challenge Griffin Airways by offering routes and perks tailored for their needs. He felt every heart in the room beating as one with his own desire for success. Then came the chair creaking in the back of the hall. A hesitant voice broke through. "And if it fails?" Jake's heart sank while he took the question to heart. What if it does? But then again, what if it doesn't? If we try and fail, we learn. But if we just stand still, nothing changes. In that moment, the atmosphere changed. Heads began to nod, and a gentle murmur of agreement rolled across the hall. Together they could stand against Griffin Airways, not just as individuals, but united. Jake's heart soared at the emotional shift. This wasn't just about him, it was about them. And the wild idea of an airline that represented their community morphed into a tight knot of excitement. Yet as he glanced around, he realized the stakes laid heavier than ever. Above the murmurs and laughter, the shadows of doubt whispered again. What would the response of Griffin Airways be? Would they retaliate against his boldness? As the conversation buzzed around him like electric sparks, Jake knew he was stepping into uncharted territory. The next chapter of his journey awaited, and the temptation of what it could become lingered ever so tantalizingly. A whirlwind of excitement swept through the town hall, and Jake felt it wrap around him like a warm blanket. The murmurs of support grew louder, feeding his resolve. As he stepped off the podium and made his way through the crowd, familiar faces greeted him with smiles. The hope in their eyes lit a fire in his chest. He was no longer just chasing a dream alone. Jake. Lily, a local teacher, approached him with a sparkle of optimism. "I can already see parents at school gathering ideas on how their kids can help raise funds. This will bring the community together." Her enthusiasm made him feel buoyant. "Absolutely, Lily. We can have bake sales, car washes, and even a neighborhood fundraiser. Every bit counts." As they discussed potential ideas, Jake felt a palpable energy shift in the room. It was no longer just about an airline but about rekindling connections. However, just as a sense of triumph surged through him, another voice cut into the excitement. "You think you can really take them on?" It was Doug, a local mechanic, frowning as he approached with crossed arms. "Griffin Airways has deep pockets. What makes you so sure they won't crush you?" Jake's heart sank again. Doubts, like uninvited guests, had sprung up at the edges of the celebration. But he couldn't back down now. "Doug, I get it. I understand the risks, but this isn't just my fight. It's all of ours. With our community, we can lift each other, make them see they can't just dictate how we fly." Doug sighed, relenting ever so slightly. "Well, I guess you're not wrong about that. But don't be naive. People get hurt in business like this." Before Jake could respond, Mr. Collins stepped in. "We need more than just passion. We need strategy. If we're going to truly challenge Griffin, we must have a solid plan." He turned to Jake, the managing director's expression calculated but encouraging. "What's our next move?" Jake felt his pulse quicken. This was pivotal. "Let us organize a working group, everyone who participated tonight. We can brainstorm specifics, routes, pricing, even marketing. If we can show investors our community as support, the LLC we're viable." Chatter erupted as excitement returned, ideas flying through the air like confetti. Yet, the underlying tension remained. The reality of Griffin Airways loomed over his ambitious venture like a dark cloud, threatening to rain on their parade.as days turned into restless nights. Jake found himself plagued by worry. He would often stare at the city skyline, imagining planes soaring against the horizon but also picturing Griffin Airways' looming silhouette. Amid the fervor of planning, Jake received an unexpected call. "Mr. Drake, this is Alan from Griffin Airways," the voice on the other end stated coolly. "We've heard about your little project and wanted to advise you to reconsider your ambitions. It might be safer for someone your age to keep dreaming, rather than quit your day job." Jake could hear laughter in the background. Anger bubbled up inside him, a simmering ember of determination ignited. "I'm just getting started, Alan, and I won't be intimidated. You underestimate what we're creating here." Ending the call, Jake felt invigorated. He had ignited a spark, and he wouldn't let fear extinguish it. In the days that followed, he gathered his community for a series of workshops, where everyone contributed ideas. They mapped out flight routes that even included popular destinations not served by Griffin. Each suggestion filled Jake with hope, intertwining their collective effort with his dream. But even as enthusiasm thrived among them, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Griffin's reach felt omnipresent, like a storm gathering strength on the horizon. With everything on the line, he prepared for another town hall meeting, hoping to solidify their plans against the looming threat. Now more than ever, he needed to reassure his supporters and himself that they were in this together, ready to face whatever came their way. As night fell and the stars twinkled above, Jake looked out at the community that had embraced him. He could feel their heartbeat, a chorus of determination and courage. But with an antagonist like Griffin Airways poised to strike back, Jake couldn't help but wonder what would they do next. Jake stepped into the town hall with a heavy heart, the familiar scent of polished wood and stale coffee filling the air. This time, the room was charged with a different energy. The previous excitement had transformed into an intense determination, but beneath it all, an undercurrent of anxiety buzzed like a live wire. He could see it in the way people shifted in their seats, glancing nervously at the door as if expecting Griffin Airways to march in any second. "Thanks for coming, everyone," he began, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. "We're here not just to discuss our plans but to come together as a community. The future depends on us fighting for it." The crowd murmured in agreement, their support grounding him. He spotted Lily taking notes, her brow furrowed in concentration. Doug, still skeptical, leaned back with his arms crossed. Despite their differences, Jake knew they needed everyone on board if they were going to stand a chance. He outlined their strategies, emphasizing collaboration across various sectors: local businesses, schools, and individual contributions. "The more we pull together, the more visible we'll become. We'll need flyers, social media campaigns, and even signage that showcases our mission." "Can we really make a difference?" Doug interjected, his voice low but echoing Jake's fears. "Griffin has resources we can only dream of." Jake took a breath, feeling the weight of those words. "We're not fighting money with money, Doug. We're fighting passion with passion. They might have deep pockets, but we have something they can't buy. We have each other." There was a murmur of agreement, a ripple of hope that spread through the room. The conversation shifted to lifting each other up, raising morale, and creating a network that pushed for what they believed in. Ideas blossomed, and soon they were discussing community events, movie nights, talent shows, even a citywide scavenger hunt to raise awareness. Yet, as they threw around ideas into the evening, Jake couldn't shake the restless feeling settled in his gut. Was it enough? Would it matter when Griffin Airways decided to fight dirty? Suddenly, the door swung open and a voice called out, "You need to hear this, Jake." It was Mr. Collins, breathless and urgent. The room fell silent, all eyes on him. "Griffin is planning a press conference. They're going to announce a partnership with the city to enhance services at the airport. It's their way of trying to squash your hopes before they really start." The news hit Jake like a punch to the gut. He glanced around the room, some faces went pale, and he could see the fear creeping back in. This was their moment, and Griffin was scheming to steal it right out of their hands. "Are you serious?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. When is it happening? Tomorrow morning, Mr. Collins replied, shaking his head. We need to act fast if we're going to counter their announcement. We have to get our message out before they can control the narrative. Jake felt adrenaline surge through his veins. This was at the moment when they could prove their mettle against a giant. All right, team. We hit the streets tonight. We'll spread a message of unity, tell our side of the story. We can't let them drown us out. As energy returned to the room like a tidal wave, Jake felt the community rallying behind him, pushing aside their doubts. They were ready to fight not just for an airline, but for their voices to be heard. But as Jake stepped outside into the cool night air, he still felt a creeping dread. What would Griffin do about it? Was this just the beginning of their tactics? It was time to find out if they were prepared for a fight. The night was young, and their journey was about to reach a pivotal moment. Would they rise up, or would they crumble under the pressure? Jake took a deep breath, staring at the sky, determined to forge ahead no matter what lay ahead. The next battle loomed large, and he was ready to face it, but what would it cost them? As Jake stood under the vast night sky, his heart raced. The stars twinkled as if reminding him of what was at stake. He turned to the group gathered around him, friends, neighbors, warriors of a different kind. They were ready. Yet, doubt gnawed at him. Could they really outmatch a giant like Griffin Airways? Gather round. He called, and the crowd huddled closer, their faces lit by the pale glow of streetlights. We need a plan. Timing is crucial. If they announce their partnership tomorrow, we can't let it go uncontested. Lily stepped forward, her eyes sparked with determination. We should assemble a team. People to cover every corner of town. We'll take shifts. Some can hit social media, others can start knocking on doors, sharing printed flyers. Every person counts. Great idea. Jake nodded, buoyed by her enthusiasm. Let us break up into groups. We need boots on the ground, every neighborhood, every coffee shop, every school. He turned to Doug, who still sat with a skeptical expression. What do you think? Doug uncrossed his arms, finally showing signs of engagement. Fine, but it's not going to be easy. Griffin has professionals. We'd better be slick if we want to be taken seriously. Then let us show them what we've got. Jake declared. Let us make our presence feel like a wave crashing against the shore. As they divided into teams, the energy in the air shifted from worry to sheer determination. Laughter erupted as plans began swirling about their community events, how they paint banners, blast their message across social media, and rally support from other towns nearby. Jake felt elated and terrified all at once. Hours passed, blending into a frantic rhythm of dialing phones, printing flyers, and fervently messaging each other. The night shifted gradually to dawn, and fatigue tugged at Jake's eyelids, but he pushed through. The passion of his community fueled him, a fire igniting in his chest that couldn't be extinguished. As they regrouped just before dawn, the tired faces around him wore newfound resolve. They stood in a circle, eager to share their experiences, and Jake found himself beaming with pride. Just then, Lily's phone buzzed, and she shot out of her chair. Griffin just released a press statement. They're announcing it right now. Her voice trembled with urgency. The group instantly fell silent, tension thickening the air. What does it say? Jake asked, dread pooling in his stomach. Lily squinted at her phone. They're showcasing this as an amazing opportunity for new jobs and growth. They're painting it like the city is on board with them. Jake's gut twisted. They're trying to frame us as the opposition before we can even respond. This is worse than we thought. Suddenly, Doug stood up, conviction igniting his expression. But that's exactly what we need. We can counter with our message about community values, real people over corporate greed. We can't let them set the narrative. That's our story, all the good things we want to share. The words hung in the air, and Jake felt the weight of doubt lift from his shoulders. You're right. We rally in front of the town hall, spread our message loud and clear before their story takes hold. As they prepared to head out into the morning light, hope surged through Jake. This wasn't just a fight for the airport or a quarrel with a corporation. This was a stand for their community, for each other. But deep within, an unsettling thought bubbled. What would Griffin's retaliation look like? As the morning sun broke through the clouds, they marched together, ready to face whatever storm was approaching. Now they were on the edge of something bigger than themselves, and Jake couldn't shake the feeling this was just the beginning of a much larger battle. What would Griffin Airways do next? Their answer was coming, and Jake knew they had to be ready. The streets were still quiet as Jake and his friends marched toward the town hall. Muffled sounds echoed in the crisp morning air, birds rustling in the branches, a distant car passing. For a moment, everything felt surreal. Their small group of passionate residents was about to confront a giant. Anxiety fluttered in Jake's chest, but it was drowned out by a wave of determination. They had each other, and together they felt invincible. As they approached the steps of the town hall, Jake unfolded a meticulously crafted banner that read, "Your voice matters." The vibrant yellow paint glistened in the sunlight, each letter bold and clear. It was meant to be a beacon of hope, a visual rallying cry. "Jake, you handling the speeches?" Lily asked, fixing her hair. She wore a bright pink shirt, a symbol of their unity, and looked ready to charge. "Yeah, but I'm going to need backup," he replied, feeling the weight of their mission on his shoulders. He had never been one to command attention, yet this was different. Today, the stakes were far too high for self-doubt. The crowd started to gather, a mixture of friends and neighbors, curious onlookers, and a few brave souls ready to lend their voices. Among them was Mrs. Reynolds, an older woman who had lived in town for decades. Her kind smile reassured him. If anyone should be leading the charge, it was her heartbeat for this community. "Remember, we're here to share what Griffin is taking from us," Jake reminded the group as they huddled together one last time. "It's not just about the airport, it's about our values, our home, and our future." Doug's hand shot up, drawing Jake's attention. "Don't forget about the petition. We need people signing that today. Every signature is a voice, one step closer to making them listen." "Good point, Doug," Jake nodded, already feeling the stir of excitement rise again. "Let us get started." They organized themselves, dividing into teams. Some began to draw attention to the petition table while others fanned out, handing out flyers and talking to passers-by. Jake felt a sense of urgency, electric energy flowing around him as the buzz of conversation built. Minutes turned into an hour, and it was incredible to see so many people taking a stand. Laughter mixed with anxious chatter as the crowd slowly built, drawing in more support. He watched as a young couple, skeptical at first, filled out the petition with conviction. But then, a commotion at the corner of the square caught his attention. A sleek black SUV pulled up, and with it, a wave of tension washed over the crowd. The doors opened, and out stepped a group of sharply dressed individuals. Their presence alone felt like a dark cloud looming over the assembled townsfolk. "That's them," Doug whispered, his voice low. "Those are Griffin's PR people. They must be here to do damage control." Jake felt a surge of dread. What if they came to spin a counter-narrative? Would they dismiss their concerns? As he watched the professionals smooth their suits and adjust their ties, he realized this was it. This would decide everything. His heart pounded as he turned back to his group. "We can't let them overshadow us. We have to stand firm and spread our message louder. Remember why we're here." As the opposing team started to address the gathering crowd with their polished rhetoric, Jake felt his feet move unconsciously toward the stage. He couldn't allow Griffin to drown them out. He had to speak up, to make their voices heard. In that moment, as the crowd swayed in response to the corporate soundbites, he put his hands on the makeshift microphone, bracing himself for what he was about to do. He spoke from his heart, his voice shaking with urgency, in a world suddenly feeling precarious, but just as he took a deep breath to begin, his eyes caught sight of something, a flicker of movement among the crowd. A familiar face appeared, muddy from the fight and draped in defiance. It was someone he hadn't expected but needed. Who could it be? And how would they change the game? Jake's heart raced as he squinted through the throng of people. There, stepping forward, was Ella, his childhood friend and fierce environmentalist. Her hair was tousled and her clothes were stained with mud, like she had just clawed her way out of an obstacle course, but her spirit was unmistakable. The moment their eyes met, a spark ignited in Jake. "What are you doing here?" he called out, shocked and thrilled. "I heard about the protest. I had to be here." Ella beamed, her energy infectious. But the warmth of her presence quickly dissolved as Jake's focus shifted back to the people from Griffin. They were commanding attention now, their polished words twisting the narrative. He glanced at Doug and Lily, who exchanged uncertain looks. "Ella, we need you," he said, feeling the weight of their mission settle even heavier on his shoulders. "I'm ready to help." "I just got back from the rally downtown," she said, panting slightly but fierce. "They're trying to silence voices like ours, claiming we'll benefit from the airport because of jobs. We need to expose the truth about what they're taking from us instead." "You're right. They're manipulating the facts." Jake nodded, fresh determination rising within him. "We'll show them our truth." Jake gestured to the microphone again, wanting Ella to speak. She had a talent for connecting with people, her voice always a resonant beacon of truth. "Get on that stage, Jake. Reinforce our message. I'll gather people. We'll create a wave of support." He took a breath and stepped back to where he'd been. Thoughts raced through his mind. He had to frame this moment, to harness their fears about losing their home. Racing against time, he felt the energy of the crowd. Some were uncertain, but others buzzed with eager anticipation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake shouted, his voice cutting through the chatter. He saw heads turning, eyes meeting his. "Thank you for being here. We're not just fighting against an airport, we're fighting for our community. We're fighting for our voices to matter." Cheers erupted, a burst of enthusiasm that echoed off the town hall walls. The crowd thickened, people pushing closer to hear him. As he continued, he felt the surge of Ella's unwavering support behind him. "Every signature on that petition represents our hope, our fears, and our future. We can't let Griffin manipulate us into silence." In that moment, Jake felt like a conductor with an orchestra, every voice was a note and together they composed a symphony of resistance. But just as momentum built, a figure emerged from the shadows behind the PR team, a tall man with a confident stride. Disheveled hair and unkempt clothing set him apart from the rest, but it was his presence that commanded attention. It was Tom, the town's former mayor, widely admired and feared in equal measure. Whispers spread through the crowd. "What is he doing here?" someone murmured. Jake's pulse quickened. Tom was supposed to be out of town after recent controversies. What could he possibly want now, in this pivotal moment for the community? Jake felt a knot of tension in his stomach. Would Tom side with Griffin or join their cause? As Tom approached the stage, Jake could sense the growing uncertainty in the crowd. The decision of how to handle Tom's unexpected arrival hung in the air. Would he bolster their resolve or cast shadows of doubt? Jake held his breath, the weight of the moment heavy on his chest. What will happen next? He wondered as he stared into Tom's piercing gaze, ready to unearth the truth behind his return. Tom stepped forward, the murmurs of the crowd intensifying around him. A mix of curiosity and apprehension danced in the air. Jake could feel the tension, thick and heavy like fog. Each footfall from Tom seemed to pulse against Jake's heart. "Jake!" Tom called out, eyes scanning the crowd as he raised a hand in greeting. "I'm not here to stand against you. I'm here to talk." His voice, deep and resonant, carried both authority and a hint of something else, an uneasiness. Perhaps the crowd's restlessness shifted. They were watching closely, waiting for this unexpected actor to reveal his role in the play unfolding before them. "Talk? Now?" Jake managed to say, the skepticism clear in his tone. "After everything that's happened?" Tom nodded, a flash of sincerity in his gaze. "I get it. But there is something you all need to know. Something that isn't being reported. The truth about Griffin and the airport plans. It's not as simple as they're making it out to be." Jake exchanged glances with Ella, who raised an eyebrow, her expression a mix of hope and wariness. What do you mean? She called out, breaking through the crowd's whispers. Let me explain, Tom said, stepping closer to the microphone, pushing back his disheveled hair. I've been digging into the contracts, the environmental impact statements, and there are discrepancies. Serious ones. The data is manipulated. They've fabricated job opportunities to make this whole project look appealing. A ripple of disbelief coursed through the audience. Jake felt a burst of hope ignite within him, but he also felt wary. What's your angle, Tom? He asked, stepping forward with a challenge in his voice. Why should we trust you? Because I'm still a part of this community, he said, a slight tremor in his voice. I didn't just walk away. I stepped down to regroup. I want to protect what we all love. Jake studied Tom's face. Lines of worry creased his brow, sincerity glimmering in his eyes. Maybe there was more to Tom than the controversy that had pushed him from the spotlight. Are you saying the company is hiding something? Doug's voice cut through the din, skepticism still palpable. Tom leaned closer. It's bigger than that. There's potential corruption. If we don't fight back, they'll ruin our community for profit. I can help you expose it, but we can't do it alone. We need more voices. The more people who stand with you, the harder it will be for Griffin to silence us. The crowd stirred, excitement blooming at the idea of an ally in the former mayor. A wave of murmurs broke out. Could they actually turn the tide against Griffin? Ella stepped forward, her demeanor fierce. What do we need to do? She demanded, her passion resonating with everyone around. We need to mobilize, Tom answered, urgency creeping into his voice. Rally the community, gather evidence, and prepare for a fight. Griffin 1T backed down easily. The energy in the crowd shifted again, this time filling the air with determination. It felt electric. Jake looked around at the faces of the people he'd grown up with, their hopes, fears, and dreams merging into a singular force. As Tom began to outline a plan, Jake felt a swell of purpose rising in him. Maybe this was what they needed, a shift in strategy, an unexpected ally in their corner. But doubt still lingered, like a shadow creeping just out of sight, and yet, as the people rallied together, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. He steeled himself for the challenges ahead. Would Tom's revelations be enough to change the tide? Or was this just another part of a dangerous game with even bigger stakes? Get your pens ready, Jake called out, passion coursing through him. We're just getting started. While the crowd erupted in cheers, Jake's insides twisted. He had to wonder, could alliances shift as easily as the wind in their fight against Griffin? As thoughts swirled in his mind, he understood one truth: the storm was just beginning. What other secrets lay hidden, waiting to be uncovered? The sun rose brightly over the small Midwestern town, casting golden rays through the window of Jake's room. Today was the day. The day they would confront Griffin Airways with the truth that had been festering in the shadows. With his heart hammering against his chest, he stood at his desk, staring at a wall plastered with plans, notes, and tight-knit community support, a beautiful tapestry of hope. He gathered his team, Doug, Lily, Ella, and Mr. Collins. They huddled around the kitchen table, the heavy weight of a series of new strategies mixing with sheer determination. This is it, Jake said, his voice firm. We're fighting not just for an airline but for our community, our future. As they finalized their plans, a rush of uncertainty fluttered in Jake's stomach. What if they retaliate? He murmured, a shadow of doubt creeping in. They will, but that's why we're ready, Doug replied, his jaw set with a steely defiance. We're armed with the truth now. The group moved to the town hall, where the air crackled with anticipation. Residents buzzed with eagerness, clutching signs and petitions as they rallied to support Jake's vision. There was a palpable sense of unity, hands joining, faces bright with hope, thunderous in their collective resolve. As Jake took the microphone, he felt the warmth of their gaze enveloping him. Thank you for standing together today, he began, swallowing past the lump in his throat. Today, we fight as one, our hearts linked in this aspiration. The crowd cheered, their voices swelling like ocean waves. Tom has done the hard work to show us how Griffin is playing dirty. Jake continued. We will share this truth with everyone. They can't silence each one of us if we stand together. Cheers erupted again, and the crowd buzzed with invigoration. As they passed flyers, collected signatures, and amplified their message, whispers of hope grew louder. Together, they marched to the airport, a sea of pink shirts and bright banners, their individuality melding into a striking force aiming at the heart of Griffin Airways. Suddenly, a town official appeared, flanked by Griffin's slick PR team. Fear trickled through Jake as he witnessed the opposition up close. "You think you can take us down, Jake?" One of the PR agents scoffed, crossing her arms, tilting her head with a look of disdain. Jake felt the anger bubbling inside of him. "No. This isn't just about me. This is about our community. If any corporation tries to take away our voice, we will fight back tenfold." The crowd roared in agreement, eyebrows raised, fists pumping in solidarity. They stood undeterred by Griffin's attempts to intimidate. Then, a text flashed on Jake's phone. "Breaking news, Griffin announces partnership at today's press conference." His heart raced at the implication. It was a power play, a distraction. But they had prepared. The moment felt electric as Jake steadied himself. "Okay, listen everyone," Jake shouted, capturing the crowd's attention. "We're not just reacting, we're going to turn this partnership into an opportunity. They may have money, but we have each other." As if fueled by his words, cheers erupted into a unified chant, "Our community. Our choice." They marched towards the press area, vibrant and loud, ready to make their stand. Each step felt monumental until they reached the line drawn in the sand, teetering close to where Griffin's team waited, smirking, smug. Charlie, the head of Griffin, took the podium. "We're here not just for profit, but for the growth of this community." The crowd collectively murmured, an undertow of skepticism washing over them. That's when Jake stepped up. "And that's where the misrepresentation ends. Griffin is making promises they can't keep, local jobs instead of profits, and they've hidden the truth behind growth under layers of deception." The crowd erupted once more, their support rallying behind Jake's words. The tide began to turn as the roar of a united community drowned out Griffin's polished rhetoric. "That's enough," Charlie shouted, trying to regain control, but Jake and his people overflowed with energy, rising higher. In that uproar, the crowd demanded transparency, accountability, a fight not just for air routes but for their lives intertwined with the land. They had revealed the cracks in Griffin's facade, and the audience could feel it. In the ensuing chaos, reporters flocked to Jake's side, turning cameras on him, eager to capture the underdog story of a small town rising against corporate giants. A network of shared dreams surged across screens, resonating wherever it landed. Days turned into weeks, and the momentum grew. Conversations shifted in the community. People who once feared their voices were now sharing their own stories, pushing against the corporate tide instead of yielding to it. Jake had transformed from a dreamer into a leader, and suddenly, this battle felt larger than life, larger than him. With countless heartfelt connections and buzzing excitement, Jake stood victorious under the bright midday sun, the crowd roaring with him. His heart swelled. This moment was real. He looked at the faces of his community, radiant with newfound spirit. "We did this together," Jake exclaimed as a wave of joy surged through him. "Let us keep moving forward." As everyone cheered, Jake realized they had become a family, a collective force fighting for what they believed in. The long shadows of Griffin Airways started to recede, and amidst the light, Jake felt the warmth of hope. Transformation was always possible, and now he knew how strong they were together. And as the sun began to set, painting the sky with hope, it was clear that all who joined in this fight had kindled a flame that would shine bright, lighting the way for the future. And now, join in this journey. You need to subscribe now to hear more empowering stories that inspire community strength. Show your support, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this message alive. Comment below your feelings about today's powerful outcome. Don't wait not even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need this inspiration in their lives. Together, we can change the world.